Well, it's all over for Europe. Gazprom has declared force majeure. Nord Stream 1 is dead. Germany has been cut off from gas permanently. No longer, or not, it's not just Nord Stream 2 that they won't be getting, which they desperately needed, which Angela Merkel begged Putin to build like a dog because she knew that Germany needed more gas because of the Greens' obsession with shutting off nuclear power plants. The basic story here, without getting into the whole background, going all the way back to, what was his name? The guy in Germany who's hated now for being Putin's buddy. Gerhard Schroeder. I'll get into him later. That's who I was trying to think of. Oh, the basic thing that happened here, there were some turbines, I guess, that had to be sent to Canada that are a part of the Nord Stream 1 pipeline. They had to be repaired. So the pipeline had to be shut down temporarily for maintenance. That was the official story coming from the Ruskies. But Canadian sanctions on Russia would not allow these turbines, which were sent to Canada, to be released and sent back to be a part of any Russian pipeline, because that would benefit the Ruskies, and Justin Trudeau is very tough on Russia. He is a big Russia hawk, as you all know. The Germans have done nothing to intervene diplomatically to try and get these turbines released. It is almost certain that if Olaf Scholz put pressure on Justin Trudeau, he would let him have these turbines and they could get Nord Stream 1 back up and running. As far as Justin Trudeau is concerned, he and Olaf Scholz are on the same page. They want this to be shut down implicitly because they don't want to deal with Russia. They don't want to give them anything. And Germans are going to pay the price. The people of Germany. This is a deliberate policy. Now, you can blame the Ruskies and say, well, the Ruskies, they want to shut down Nord Stream 1. Well, that might be true, but the Germans are giving them every excuse to do so. So maybe it is mutually, wanted. Maybe both sides want to shut down Nord Stream 1. And by both sides, I mean both governments. But at the end of the day, it's the people who live in Germany who are going to suffer, and ultimately the rest of Europe, because now the rest of Europe is going to have to export the gas that they're getting from Russia and other places, like the United States, in order to feed a now hungry Germany. I'm not exactly sure what percentage of Germany's gas supply comes via Nord Stream 1, but I would think that it is not an insignificant portion. And so this will, needless to say, have a massive effect on European gas markets and on European energy prices in general, because without the natural gas, they're going to have to use other forms of energy, and that's going to drive up the price of all energy in the European Union, particularly in Germany. The operators of Germany's soon-to-be shuttered nuclear power plants, the few that remain, which have been under the order or the deal that was worked out by Gerhard Schroeder back in the day. Well, he made a handshake agreement with Putin. We buy Russian gas, and then we shut down all of our nuclear power plants because the Greens, for some reason, they think nuclear is bad, and obviously they think natural gas is bad, but they think natural gas is less bad than nuclear. So the Greens, made a deal with Gerhard Schroeder, who I believe was from the SPD, the same party as Olaf Scholz, to shut down all the nuclear power plants. And Scholz, despite the disintegration of Germany's relationship with Russia, which enabled them to, appease the Greens and shut down the nuclear power plants by replacing nuclear energy with gas, that's all being flushed down the drain. They have no replacement. They're still shutting down the nuclear power plants. And they're doing it, by government will. The government could tell these nuclear power plant operators, hey, stay open, keep producing energy. But they're telling them no. At the same time that the Ruskies have been forced, or you can say, okay, well, it's BS, you can choose not to believe it if you want. But either way, that pipeline is shut down. And if you believe that the Ruskies are doing this intentionally, that they don't, it's not force majeure, that it's not the Canadian government interposing itself between Germany and Russia, that has put a stop to Nord Stream 1 and has left it in disrepair. If you think that the Ruskies are the ones behind this, well, then I have to tell you, they're going to do it everywhere else too. It's not going to end in Germany. Everywhere in Europe is going to start experiencing disruptions. And, the Russians, who, it was almost certain were going to just let all of their, their gas contracts lapse. They weren't going to renew them as soon as they, came up for renewal. They were just going to say, no, we're not going to sell any more gas to you Europeans. Now, the Ruskies, they might find excuses like this all over. They might have force majeure excuses to get out of their contractual obligations for supplying gas to the rest of Europe. So this is an unmitigated disaster. This is not a good thing. This is, in fact, a very bad thing. And because energy markets are global, commodity markets are global, we here in America are going to pay the price as well. We're going to be exporting more gas to Europe. But what little gas we're pulling out of the ground, because our government, despite, the fact that we have natural resources, doesn't want to take them out of the ground. They hate fracking, which fracking is how you extract, is how you, it's how you get a lot of the gas out of the earth. They're not issuing new federal leases. And this is going to have the most detrimental impact in the poorest countries on earth. We're already seeing, we all know about the revolution in Sri Lanka. That country has collapsed under the weight of its green energy and green farming initiatives. Haiti now, one of the the poorest country, I believe, in the Western Hemisphere. They have riots and gang wars, and worse than usual. I mean, Haiti's a very unstable place, but it's worse than usual because they're under the strain of food prices. A bag of rice, I hear, is now going for $26.75 in Haiti. I'll tell you, that's one country without much of an obesity problem. And if in places where it's already pretty bad and rough to begin with, people are starving and are rioting over the price of food, you can imagine things will get very bad here as well. I waited to see. I was skeptical of Biden's progress that he claims to have made with the Saudis this weekend. I raised doubts over the meaning of this so-called production capacity increase that MBS touted over the weekend. And today, last I checked, oil was up like close to 5% on the day. I mean, every leader in the West, it seems like, is allergic to energy. They're allergic, which also means you're allergic to fertilizer, which means you're allergic to food. They want us to be hungry and without power. It's as simple as that. The UK will not open up fracking. The Germans refuse to use nuclear power, and they're losing their gas. The Americans refuse to drill for any energy. They also refuse to build nuclear power plants. They refuse to build new coal power plants. I mean, we have everything. We have uranium. We have coal. We have oil. We have natural gas. We have it all here. So we're far from seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know how much worse it gets from here, but it's going to get worse. Keep in mind the Fed is still raising interest rates. They're going to raise by another 75 basis points. It looks like there were some people talking about 100 basis points. This Fed, they're always going to lean on the more cautious side because they like high asset prices. But anyway, with that said, I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.